Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the Razer Blade 15. This is a high-end gaming laptop, and this is an unboxing video and review to talk to you about what the Razer Blade 15 is like, what you get underneath the hood, and how it stacks up to the competition. Now, for reference, the Razer Blade 15 is available in two main tiers, the base model and the advanced model, and you can change the specifications to your liking. Obviously, the more impressive the spec, the more pricey it gets. Prices start from £1,500 for the base model and rise up to over £2,500 for the high-end advanced model. For reference purposes, the spec here is an Intel Core i7-8750H processor. It comes with 16 gigabytes of dual-channel DDR4, 2667 MHz RAM, which is expandable up to 32 gigabytes, a 256 gigabyte NVMe drive as the main boot drive, and an NVIDIA GTX 1070 Max-Q designed GPU. This model is also a 1080p powered display, which is capable of 144 Hz. Point of note is that the Razer Blade 15 is also available with a 4K display if you wish. That is only capable of 60 Hz though. Now, the Razer Blade 15 is interesting in a variety of ways. The first thing that really hit me was how understated the design is. It is a high quality build though, as you'll see from the unboxing video here, that it has a CNC-milled aluminium unibody frame, so it's very cold. I initially got it delivered, you can see immediately the heat from my hands left fingerprints on it. Otherwise, it's very understated, apart from the classically green coloured USB ports and the classic Razer logo on the back. It's quite nice in that way, and similar to the Zephyrus S in that this is a high-end gaming laptop with loads of punch, but it's subtle enough that you could use it in the office without raising any eyebrows. The thing itself looks quite thick and chunky. It has a large trackpad, speakers hidden down either side, and even the power button is recessed in the speaker on the right hand side, so it's not immediately obvious. As you can see from the video footage where I'm struggling to find it initially. You'll note there's a lack of numpad, and it doesn't have a massive media keys. It does have backlit keys that are accessible and customizable via the Synapse software. You'll also note the incredibly fast boot time thanks to the NVMe drive, which is a joy. Inside the box you get a load of Razer Gumph, which is including some lovely stickers, manuals, and the usual welcome to Razer, thanks for purchasing. Now, I've been using this laptop for around 2 weeks, which is plenty of time to say that it is a pretty effing good system. I have put this through the ringer with a number of games, I've done some benchmarking on it, and I've been using it on a daily basis. Now, unlike the Zephyrus S, the Razer doesn't compromise in terms of specifications under the hood for the outward design. As I said, it's quite understated, so it's not in your face. It is, however, not the thinnest either, so it is quite chunky, and you can see it looks quite chunky. The bezels on the screen are very thin, but the device itself is a bit thicker than the Zephyrus S, but that does mean that it can pack more power in terms of battery power, for example. So this laptop is capable of running at least 6 hours on a single charge when using for daily browsing or work purposes. Obviously it doesn't manage that much with gaming. I found I was getting around an hour out of it, or just over an hour for gaming purposes, and it varies depending on whether you've got the backlighting on the keys and such as well. Obviously there's Windows customization for battery options, so you could probably eke a little bit more out of it, and it will depend on what else you're doing with your recording or playing high intensity games on maximum settings, so that's going to vary. But I did find that the battery life on this is far superior. You'll note these membrane style keys are backlit and customizable, as I said, and I'll show you a bit more on that later on. But the design itself is fairly decent. It is a very solid design, and you'd expect it for the amount of money you're paying, because you can pay up to, as I said, £2,500 for this, so it's not a laptop that's messing about. It also has a number of inputs and outputs. It'll be worth referencing the Razer site to check depending on which model you're getting, because it's slightly different. For example, the base model has an Ethernet port, whereas the Advanced doesn't, which I find a bit curious. It does, however, have a multitude of outputs. So we had 3 USB 3.1 ports, Thunderbolt 3 USB-C port. It has the HDMI 2 output, it has a MiniDisplayPort 1.4. It also has a number of excellent options for other audio options. So you have a 3.5mm jack, which is a headphone combo jack. It has Dolby Atmos support, and it runs on Intel Wireless AC 9260 with Bluetooth 5 connectivity, so the lack of Ethernet port isn't a problem. Now you can see I ran some benchmarks on it, and I'll add the links in the description to those. We ran a 3D mark, a number of different 3D marks on it, and found that it got a fairly decent result out of it, and in fact it was probably better than Zephyrus. We've been playing Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and Hitman 2 on maximum settings. Found it was getting over 70, 80, 90 FPS on that on a regular basis. The Tomb Raider benchmark showed an average of 60 FPS, but it certainly felt smoother than that. Another highlight here is actually the Max-Q graphics card. You can get the drivers for it direct from NVIDIA. With the Zephyrus S, you had to go through Asus to be able to get those because they had to make them compatible with the device, but these ones seem to work straight from NVIDIA, which is a nice surprise because I was expecting to have to get them via Razer. The gaming is smooth and comfortable. It is comfortably handles any of the modern games on all the maximum settings, which you'd expect from this specification. Another thing is it doesn't get too hot, which is great. The cooling fans are underneath, and there are 2 large rubber feet that sit on the desk and keep it away from the surface, which means that it can keep cool nicely. Did find, however, that the fans do get very noisy, especially when you're under a heavy gaming load. If you notice slowdown in the benchmarking here, it's because the video frame rates aren't quite set up correctly in my editing suite, so it's not actually how it was captured. The laptop itself does not get overly hot during use, which I was quite surprised by, and whether it's sitting on your lap or the keys themselves, even putting it through the ringer on different high-end games on the ultra settings, it comfortably managed it without getting overly hot, which was pleasant. And that's always a good thing because you don't want it getting too hot. As I did say though, it does get very noisy. You can adjust the fan settings within the Synapse software, which means you can turn them down if it's a bit too noisy. Obviously that's a compromise in terms of performance though. The 144Hz display panel is also excellent. It has some excellent viewing angles. It's very beautiful to look at and things. One thing I did note is that it doesn't have the various different visual settings that the Asus laptop did, so it's a bit more basic in that way, but that's not necessarily a problem because you can adjust the brightness and other things quite easily in the settings and on the fly with the function keys, so that's not a problem. Here you can see the function keys, media keys built into the F keys at the top, so you can adjust the brightness of the volume, brightness of the keys, brightness of the screen, media playback and such, just by pressing the function key and those keys. The lack of numpad was a bit annoying. The trackpad itself is also very large. Found it a bit of a pain to use. Now here's the key colors in action. You can access all the different Synapse software, so the usual programmability with RGB keys as you'd expect. Here I've made WASD keys red and the rest of them blue, and then when you touch the WASD they change to white, but you can do all sorts of things with it. So it has a lot of flexibility as you'd expect. At the end of the day, this is a fantastic gaming laptop. It is very expensive, but you do get what you pay for, and it can be used in the office without looking too leery, which is great. This has been the Provoke Prawn. I hope you like this video. Thanks for watching.